He thought he had everything: wealth, success, a penthouse view of the world. But one whispered plea from a desperate boy shattered his perfect life and led him to something he never knew he was missing: a family. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel as a sign of support. Your engagement helps keep powerful stories like this alive. It was a crisp fall morning in downtown Chicago. The streets bustled with people heading to work, coffee in hand, coats pulled tight against the wind. Amidst the crowd, no one noticed the small boy standing barefoot in the alleyway just off Michigan Avenue. His clothes were stained and threadbare, his cheeks smudged with dirt. But it was his eyes, wide, anxious, and searching, that might have caught someone's attention if anyone had been looking. Cameron Bennett was looking at his phone as he left a corporate brunch meeting at the Drake Hotel. At 36, he was a venture capitalist known for his sharp instincts and sharper suits. This morning had been just another meeting, another pitch, until a small voice stopped him cold. "Sir, please, I need help." Cameron turned toward the alley and spotted the boy. He looked no older than 8, maybe 9, and he held something tightly wrapped in a towel against his chest. "Are you okay, kid?" Cameron asked, unsure if he should call security or offer the kid food. The boy stepped forward, his lips trembling. "It's my sister. She's really sick. I don't know what else to do." Cameron hesitated. This had to be some kind of scam. A barefoot kid on Michigan Avenue? It didn't add up. But something in the boy's tone, raw, urgent, completely unguarded, made Cameron pause. "Where's your sister?" he asked, lowering his phone. "Just a few blocks," the boy said. "Please, she's all I have." Cameron sighed. His assistant was waiting at the office, and he had 2 Zoom calls lined up before noon. Still, he couldn't bring himself to walk away. "What's your name?" Jaden Cole." "All right, Jaden, let's go see your sister." Jaden's face lit up, not with joy, but with sheer relief. He turned and began weaving through side streets, moving fast despite his bare feet in the chill. Cameron followed, his polished shoes clacking against the sidewalk, drawing stares from passers-by. As they walked, Jaden spoke in bursts. "My sister's name is Emily. She's 10. We don't got no parents. Our mom passed last year. We were staying at a shelter but had to leave." Cameron listened quietly, unsure what he was walking into. But as they turned down a quieter block, he saw a small figure lying under a makeshift blanket between 2 dumpsters. The girl was pale, her breathing shallow. Jaden knelt beside her. "She's burning up. I don't know what's wrong." Cameron's heart tightened. He crouched down and touched her forehead. "Burning hot. No time to think." "I'm taking her to the hospital," he said. "Now." He scooped the frail girl into his arms as Jaden stood close, visibly shaking. Cameron didn't know what this would lead to, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't walking away from these kids. Cameron flagged down a cab instead of waiting for his driver. Every second felt precious, and he wasn't about to waste any of it. As soon as the car pulled up, he climbed in with Emily still cradled in his arms. Jaden jumped in right behind him. "Northwestern Memorial," Cameron told the driver. "Fast as you can." The driver glanced in the rearview mirror, saw the pale girl, and nodded silently before stepping on the gas. Jaden sat with his knees pulled up to his chest, his eyes glued to his sister. He reached out, gently touching her hand. "Stay with me, Em. We're gonna get you help. Just hang on." Cameron looked at the boy and then back at Emily. Her lips were a faint shade of blue. He didn't need a doctor to tell him this was bad. "How long has she been like this?" he asked. Jaden rubbed his nose with his sleeve. "Started 2 days ago. She said her stomach hurt. Then she got dizzy. Last night she had a fever, and this morning she couldn't even sit up." "Why didn't you go to a hospital sooner?" Jaden's voice cracked. "They said we needed insurance. I tried, but no one listened. I didn't know what else to do." Cameron felt something twist in his chest. He'd always been a numbers guy. Risks, investments, profits. He wasn't used to situations that couldn't be solved by money or logic. But this was human, raw, real. As the cab weaved through traffic, Cameron pulled out his phone, and called ahead to Northwestern. "This is Cameron Bennett. I need ER staff ready when we arrive. 10-year-old girl, high fever, unresponsive. I'll cover everything." Jaden looked at him with wide eyes. "You're really helping us." "I am." The cab screeched to a stop in front of the ER entrance. Cameron leapt out with Emily in his arms. Jaden followed, trying to keep up. Nurses rushed out with a stretcher, and Cameron gently laid Emily down as they wheeled her inside. Jaden tried to follow, but a nurse stopped him. "We need space, honey. You have to wait out here for now." Jaden looked up at Cameron in a panic. "Don't let them take her away." Cameron knelt beside him. "They're going to help her, I promise, but she needs them right now." Jaden's lip quivered. "She's all I got left." Cameron put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Then we'll make sure she gets the best care. You're not alone anymore." For a few moments, the hospital lobby was silent, except for the soft beep of machines and the hum of voices behind the ER doors. Jaden stood beside Cameron, small and shivering, but no longer alone. Cameron stared at the doors Emily had disappeared behind. He hadn't planned on this, but now that he was here, he was in it for the long haul, wherever that might lead. Jaden sat curled up in a vinyl chair in the hospital waiting room, his knees tucked to his chest, staring blankly at the tiled floor. Cameron sat a few chairs over, phone in hand, emails and meetings piling up unanswered. For once, the business world could wait. It had been over 2 hours since the doctors took Emily back. Nurses passed by occasionally with updates, blood work, IV fluids, antibiotics, but no one had given a clear answer yet. Jaden hadn't asked for snacks, water, or even a bathroom. He just waited. Cameron looked over at him and finally said, "You hungry?" Jaden shrugged. "Don't matter." "It does," Cameron replied, getting up. "I'll be back." He returned 10 minutes later with a vending machine sandwich, juice box, and a pack of chocolate chip cookies. He handed them to Jaden, who stared at the food like it was a feast. "You sure this is okay?" Jaden asked, unwrapping the sandwich carefully. "Positive." Jaden ate slowly, savoring every bite. Cameron watched, still trying to make sense of how a kid ended up in such a mess. "Where have you two been staying?" Jaden swallowed and said, "We had a room at a shelter for a while, but we couldn't stay there forever, so we moved around. Bus stations, abandoned buildings. Sometimes churches let us sleep in the pews." Cameron shook his head. "And nobody's helped?" "Some people gave us food, but most just walked past, like they didn't see us." Jaden's tone wasn't angry, just tired, like he had already accepted being invisible to the world. That hit Cameron harder than he expected. "You shouldn't be dealing with this," Cameron said quietly. Jaden looked up at him, his eyes full of something that didn't belong in a child. Grit, maybe, or weariness beyond his years. "She's my sister. I'm all she's got." Cameron didn't have an answer for that. A nurse approached them a few minutes later. "Emily's stable," she said. "We've lowered the fever, and she's resting. You can come see her." Jaden jumped up immediately. "Can I really?" "Of course," the nurse smiled. "She asked for you." Jaden glanced at Cameron. "Can he come too?" The nurse nodded, and they followed her through the maze of sterile white hallways until they reached a small private room. Emily lay there, her skin still pale, but her eyes were open and full of recognition when she saw her brother. "Jaden," she whispered. Jaden rushed to her side, grabbing her hand. "I told you I'd get help. You're going to be okay now." Emily gave him a faint smile, then looked at Cameron. "Who's he?" Jaden looked up proudly. "That's Mr. Bennett. He saved you." Cameron, uncharacteristically speechless, just smiled and nodded. Something shifted in that moment, not just in Emily's breathing or Jaden's shoulders relaxing, but in Cameron too. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about mergers or meetings. He was thinking about family. Later that evening, the hospital room had quieted. Machines beeped softly, monitoring Emily's vitals as she dozed. Jaden sat beside her, still holding her hand. Cameron stood near the window, arms crossed, watching the city lights flicker on across the skyline. A doctor entered, clipboard in hand. She looked between the two boys and gave a polite nod. "I'm Dr. Molina. Emily's responding well to treatment. We're keeping her overnight for observation. but she should be all right. It was a severe bacterial infection. Left untreated, it could have shut down her organs. Jaden flinched, and Cameron felt a sharp pang in his chest. She'll need antibiotics and follow-up care, Dr. Molina continued. And, well, there's the matter of guardianship. Cameron turned toward her. What do you mean? She mentioned they have no parents and no legal guardian. I'll need to notify Child Protective Services. Jaden stood quickly. No, please don't take her. We're fine, I swear. We're together. I understand you've done your best, Dr. Molina said gently, but she needs stability, and you need someone looking after you, too. Cameron stepped in. Is there another option? Some way to delay that process? The doctor hesitated. Maybe, but only if someone steps forward as a temporary guardian. Jaden looked at Cameron, eyes full of hope and desperation. Can you help us? Just for now? Please? Cameron opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He wasn't ready to commit to that. He was a businessman, not a parent, not a social worker. I'll see what I can do, he finally said. Jaden nodded slowly, his face unreadable. Not disappointed, not upset, just used to people hesitating. After the doctor left, Cameron stepped into the hallway and called his lawyer, Greg. You want to do what? Greg asked, incredulous. I just want to buy them time, Cameron said. I'm not looking to adopt, but if it keeps them together for now, you do know temporary guardianship isn't just a signature and a handshake, right? There's paperwork, background checks, maybe even home visits. I don't care. Get it started. Back inside the room, Jaden had curled up in the chair, dozing off with his hand still around Emily's. Cameron watched them from the doorway, his mind a storm of thoughts. He had clients, meetings, a penthouse with no guest rooms. This wasn't part of his life plan, and yet it was the most certain he'd felt about anything in years. By midnight, the hospital lights dimmed, and the city outside grew quiet. Cameron sat in a chair across from the kids, eyes heavy but alert. For once, it didn't matter how many unread emails blinked on his screen. What mattered was that two kids who had been invisible all this time had finally been seen, and he wasn't about to let them disappear again. 2 days later, Emily was discharged with a course of antibiotics and strict instructions to rest for at least a week. She was still weak, but color had returned to her face, and she clung tightly to Jaden's hand as they exited through the hospital's automatic doors. Cameron stood at the curb beside a black SUV, holding the back door open. He'd pulled a lot of strings over the last 48 hours. His lawyer had expedited temporary guardianship paperwork, and he'd turned one of his home offices into a makeshift bedroom. You sure it's okay we come with you? Jaden asked again. For the 100th time, yes, Cameron said with a smirk. You're not going back to a bus stop or alley. Not on my watch. Emily glanced up at him. Do you have a dog? Not yet, Cameron replied, amused. But don't get any ideas. The SUV ride to Cameron's condo was quiet at first. Jaden stared out the window, awestruck by the city's buildings from this new angle. Inside a warm car instead of on the sidewalk. Emily leaned against her brother, her small hand tucked in his. Cameron's place was in a high-rise overlooking Lake Michigan. The doorman greeted him by name but raised an eyebrow at the two children beside him. Cameron just nodded. They're with me. Inside, the condo was all clean lines, leather furniture, and minimalist decor. It was the kind of place designed for high-end business meetings, not bedtime stories. But Cameron had added a few things since the kids were admitted. Pillows, blankets, and a basket of new clothes in each bedroom. He had even stocked the fridge with juice boxes and mac and cheese. Emily walked slowly, still recovering, but her eyes lit up when she saw the guest room. A soft bed, warm sheets, even a tiny teddy bear on the pillow. This is for us? Cameron nodded. All yours, bathrooms through there. Towels, soap, whatever you need. Jaden stood in the doorway, his guard still halfway up. This feels like a trick. It's not, Cameron said quietly. I meant what I said. You're safe here. That evening they had dinner together, grilled cheese and tomato soup. Jaden ate cautiously, like it might disappear if he enjoyed it too much. Emily barely touched her food, but she smiled more than she had in days. After dinner, Jaden helped Emily into bed. Cameron overheard him whispering a made-up story about a raccoon who became mayor of a park. Emily laughed softly, then drifted to sleep. Cameron sat on the couch afterward, laptop closed beside him. He stared out the window at the glittering lake. He'd done something kind, something real, and instead of feeling overwhelmed, he felt grounded. His phone buzzed, a message from Greg. Guardianship approved for 30 days. We'll revisit then. 30 days. It wasn't forever, but maybe it was long enough to change all three of their lives. The days that followed settled into a kind of fragile routine. Cameron adjusted his schedule, pushing meetings to virtual calls and handing off more responsibility to his managing partners. It was the first time he'd ever taken a step back from his empire, and strangely, it didn't feel like he was losing control. It felt like he was gaining something else. Jaden, meanwhile, had a habit of waking up early. Cameron would find him in the kitchen making toast, a chair pushed against the counter so he could reach everything. He insisted on bringing Emily breakfast in bed every morning before schoolwork. She was improving steadily, color in her cheeks, appetite returning, even a little sass in her voice. She especially loved teasing Cameron about his lack of fun stuff. "You don't even have cartoons?" she asked one morning, holding up the remote. "I have Bloomberg TV," Cameron replied, sipping his coffee. Emily rolled her eyes. "That's not even a little fun." Jaden, though, remained cautious. He was polite, grateful, but distant. He never asked for anything and always seemed to brace himself for the worst. Cameron couldn't help but wonder what else the kid had been through. One afternoon, Cameron caught Jaden sitting on the floor in the laundry room, hugging his knees. "Hey," Cameron said gently, "everything okay?" Jaden looked up, eyes glassy. "She had a fever again last night. I didn't tell you because I thought maybe you'd send us away." Cameron walked over and sat beside him. "I took her temperature this morning, remember? Normal. No fever." Jaden sniffled. "Yeah, but I get scared. If she gets sick again, if something happens and I'm not enough." Cameron's chest tightened. He looked at the boy, not just a sibling, but someone who'd stepped into the role of protector, provider, and parent before he ever had the chance to just be a kid. "You've done more for her than most adults would, Jaden. You're not alone anymore. You don't have to carry all of it." Jaden nodded slowly but didn't answer. Cameron sat with him a while longer before saying, "Let's get you both checked out by a pediatrician, just to be sure." Jaden agreed, and the next day they visited a private clinic. The doctor gave Emily a clean bill of health and scheduled regular follow-ups. She even suggested therapy for Jaden, which Cameron agreed to without hesitation. That night, while the kids watched an animated movie, Cameron reviewed an email from a business partner. It detailed a major investment opportunity he would have jumped on a month ago. But now, he marked it unread. His phone buzzed again. Another message from Greg. "Need to talk soon? Guardianship extension process will require a home visit." Cameron stared at the message. 30 days were almost up. He looked at Jaden and Emily curled up on the couch, sharing popcorn. And he knew what he wanted. He just didn't know if he was ready to admit it yet. The morning of the home visit, Cameron's condo looked nothing like the cold bachelor pad it once was. There were crayon drawings on the fridge, small sneakers by the door, and a basket of toys half tucked under the couch. It looked lived in. More importantly, it looked like a home. Jaden was nervously brushing Emily's hair, making sure she looked presentable. Emily, in her usual cheeky tone, whispered, "You're acting like we're meeting the president." Jaden replied, "This lady decides if we stay. That's close enough." Cameron chuckled from across the room. "Don't worry, we've got this." When the doorbell rang, everyone went quiet. Cameron opened it to find a woman in a blue blazer, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Bennett, I'm Ms. Torres from Child Services." She stepped inside, glancing around at the condo. Jaden and Emily stood beside the kitchen island, holding hands. The interview began formally. Ms. Torres asked about Cameron's background, his income, and his intentions. She spoke with Jaden and Emily separately, asking how they felt and if they were comfortable. When it was Emily's turn, she tugged on Cameron's sleeve and whispered, "Can I tell her you make bad pancakes but good grilled cheese?" Cameron smiled. "Tell her the truth." Later, Ms. Torres sat across from Cameron, flipping through her notes. You understand what permanent guardianship means, right? This won't just be a temporary arrangement. If approved, you're responsible for their education, their well-being, their future. I understand, Cameron said, and I want that. It was the first time he'd said it out loud. He hadn't planned to, but now that the words were out there, they felt right. Miss Torres looked thoughtful. You live alone, no prior parenting experience, and your work schedule is, well, intense. Are you sure you're prepared to change your life for two kids you didn't know 2 weeks ago? Cameron didn't hesitate. They've already changed mine. I wasn't looking for this, but I can't imagine going back to the way things were. She nodded, standing to leave. We'll finalize the recommendation by next week, but I think you're on the right track. As the door closed behind her, Cameron turned to see Jaden watching him. Did you mean that? Jaden asked. That you want us to stay? Cameron walked over and crouched in front of him. I meant every word. You and your sister, you're not just guests anymore. If you'll let me, I want to be your family. Jaden's eyes welled up. He didn't say anything at first, just launched forward and hugged Cameron hard, his small arms tight around his neck. Emily joined in seconds later, squeezing them both. That night, Cameron didn't open his laptop. He didn't check the markets or review any deals. Instead, he tucked Emily in, high-fived Jaden goodnight, and sat on the couch with a cup of cocoa, staring out at the city lights. His condo wasn't just filled with furniture anymore. It was filled with laughter, warmth, and purpose. And for the first time in years, Cameron Bennett wasn't just a man with everything. He was someone with something to live for. Cameron Bennett started out as a high-powered businessman with no attachments. But a chance encounter with two struggling siblings changed everything. Through compassion, responsibility, and unexpected love, he found not just a purpose, but a family. Jaden and Emily, once invisible to the world, now had someone who saw them, fought for them, and gave them a place to truly belong. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change the course of a life, or three. If this story moved you, consider reaching out to a local shelter, mentoring a child, or supporting foster care initiatives in your community. Every child deserves to be seen, safe, and loved. Be the reason someone's story turns around.